distinguished audience, Dr. Sri, Mr. Hanyo. I begin by Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera. Now let me get straight without doing my usual reverse here. And Dr. Surin, I think you have presented, cogently an introduction for the aspiring Democrats in this audience, that truly it is such a challenge. And let me bring you back to a writing by a resident scholar of the American Enterprise Institute, Michael Rubin, in 2005, writing in Little Lemon International, make a mention that Islamists are intrinsically anti-democratic or anti-democratic, essentially because they rely upon higher powers and they are not willing to accept popular dissent or opposition. Now that explains the stereotyping of people like me. Immediately, I'm not actually provoked by Dr. Mazli, no, really not. And I'm going to take it in my own stride. I would like to respond to Dr. Surin's assertions of the task in front of us. And essentially, I will tie it up with what Michael Rubin mentioned in those writings. The task of Muslim Democrats, and I represent a party that's all along, from inception, we do not have to vindicate ourselves to be a democratic party, because winning or losing, we have been here and around and still alive and kicking. As a democratic party, playing to the rule of the game. Never did we ever do anything extra parliamentary. And that is something that I've got to, in all humility, assert that, the Islamic Party of Malaysia play to the rules of a democracy. And from that perspective, we would like to define ourselves as a truly Islamist democratic party. I, for one, call myself an Islamist Democrat. Even by saying Islamist Democrat, I get ostracized. Now, if I call myself a Muslim Democrat, it would be a lot worse, perhaps. But that is not the issue. Sorry, the issue here is about how an Islamist party, and now reducing it to, well, I'm not saying a relegation though, Democrats, Muslim Democrats. To me, the issue is not about identity. I don't think it's about us asserting an exclusive identity called Islamist or Muslim. More importantly, coming from where Dr. Surin left it earlier, it is about defining your role within a political setting that finally defines, and are you willing to take up that challenge, to be a critical political player in nation rebuilding and human civilization remaking. To me, that is the challenge for Muslim Democrats, Islamist Democrats, whatever you, because that would really make you understand that despite having an ideological that is essentially transcendental, in a sense that is coming from God, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we are able to play to the rule of the game. And that is the defining definition of a Democrat. And I can see too many around calling themselves Democrats, and yet not having the tolerance of others. Immediately, if he knows you from an Islamist party, he will have a kind of, a particular look on you. That is not Democrat. In the very voltaic definition, if I may say, paraphrasing him, I may disagree with you, but I will defend the right for you to advocate and fight for your conviction and belief. That is truly a Democrat. Now, it is in this regard that I believe the way forward for Democrats, especially Islamists or Muslims. The challenge is on us to be taking on that setting of a contestation, of a political contestation, of however intense it may be. You have your right to convey and advocate your conviction, your ideological belief, because you believe that Islam, as you correctly said earlier, the Surin, you quoted the right verse of وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. That rests on that reason of being here is a mercy unto all mankind. And I think that could not be any better than to offer mankind a position and a place. You know, that we want to be in the whole contest, to at least offer ourselves, our ideological conviction, our program and our principles. And all the more if you are able to have a coalition, that goes to show that you are not exclusive in that sense of the Muslim. You know, we have come a long way. The Islamist party has come a long way in a short while to understand that given a mixed demographic, setup of Malaysia, the way forward is for us to have a tahalluf siyasi. To have tahalluf siyasi would be the way forward for us. And in fact, I would dare say that democracy is the way forward for Muslim and Islam. Because the essence of democracy is in contestation and check and balance. The cardinal principle of democracy is within that verse. Had not God Almighty checked and balanced the aggressions of a group of people by another, the entire world would be in destruction and in tumult. That is the cardinal principle of Islam. That is the cardinal principle of democracy, and that is enshrined in the Quran. And I take a lot of consolation in this. And I have got no qualm to say that, we are truly Democrats. In fact, in the creative, I'm not touching on Schumpeter's creative destruction though, but in that light, democracy provides for a space. And essentially because Islam defines a siyasa not as an aqidah or an ibadah, not within the domain of aqidah and ibadah. Therefore, it provides Islam within the Sharia context, the Sharia construct, in things that are in the domain of what is known as the changeables, and not those enshrined in exorable laws that are non-changeables. And that is the beautiful thing. And I think Dr. Mazli advocates this very much, and much as Rashid Yunusi and others, and the top leaders, the contemporary Muslim thinkers. Politics, as siyasa in Islam, is that domain of al-mutaghayyirat, the changeables. And it must be contextualized. That provides for very creative ijtihad. And that's where we are in. And I think we are very comfortable with this domain. And I think sooner the better for whoever to stop stereotyping as to be essentially intrinsically undemocratic. I think that's very unfortunate, extremely unfortunate, if not outrightly despicable. Let me move on to say a few other things. And if I may just, a lot of other things to say, but the challenge on us, Dr. Surin, is no longer rhetoric. It's no longer about sloganizing al-Islamu huwa al-hal. You know that very well. Islam is a solution. Of course that is right. But now in the context of the current contestation and challenge on the Muslim Democrats, on the Islamists, on the Islamic political parties, to alone or together, singularly or collectively with their coalition partners, is for us to provide. Yes, it is still within that approach of solution provider. We have got to be that. And I think, if I just could quote, if I could paraphrase, it's no longer about sloganeering, it's no longer about rhetoric, but to provide convincing, compelling solutions that need to be proposed, that is based on principles and practical programs put forward that touches on governance, good governance, elimination of poverty, discrimination, unemployment, illiteracy, and such ailments that has plagued Muslim communities. That is a challenge of Muslim Democrats. And I think, within that context, the Islamist political party, the world over, not just PAS, not just, the Muslim Brotherhood, AK, PKS, and others. I think the challenge on us is now to really be that, as you correctly, quoted the verse, وَكَذَلِكَ جَعَلْنَاكُمْ أُمَّةً وَسَطًا. That this is not just rhetoric. That is the position as a witness unto humanity. And we, وَكَذَلِكَ جَعَلْنَاكُمْ أُمَّةً وَسَطًا لِتَكُونُوا شُهَدَاءَ عَلَى النَّاسِ. You correctly quoted that verse. How do we become shuhada ala nas, the witness unto humanity, if we are not there as exemplary leaders in critical political place within the political setup, be it in any nation state? I think that particularly for that round, and I hope I have not been so much provoked. I've responded, as I said, within my own stride, and again, I thank you. I thank you.
First of all, let me just say how wonderful it is to engage in this very thought-provoking discussion. Again, I think it shows that while we probably are moving in the same direction, we have our individual paths of moving in that direction. We are not entirely in agreement with on everything, but we are generally in the same journey to find a better vision of a Muslim society in the future. So I have to thank the Sasagawa Peace Foundation for the support and the generosity that has been shared with us, knowing that this is an important undertaking, knowing that if there is this forum, there is this space, we will be able to share among ourselves, between us, what we individually are struggling to define for ourselves a better road for a better future. So thank you very much for this opportunity. And I appreciate the various opinions coming from our fellow panelists. I think they are very, very important. And complementing and supplementing the themes that I have raised for a better and a more Muslim democratic future. For the three questions, I got the first question and the second question. The third, you will have to repeat it for me. The first question, I think, is how could, again, the contradiction between absolute Islam and accommodating and forever experimenting democracy. I think I said in the beginning that to me, Islam already provides for a space for experimentation, for democratic solution, and for consultation to get a better answer for the questions that we are facing at different juncture of our history. I think that is itself the success of the Islamic civilization, being able to accumulate along the way different views, different answers, different experiments on the question of human society going forward into the future. It is not a fossil. It is not an absolute dictum that has no space for human rationality. And if you talk about the principle or the sources of the law of Sharia, Quran, Hadith, Ijma', Qiyas, I think for human relations, for the political space, for life in a society, in a community, there's a large space for us to draw inspiration from those four sources and then to do our own experimentation and our own ijtihad on the issues facing us now, today. I was originally asked to write my PhD thesis on two concepts in Islamic jurisprudence: istislah, istihsan. And it was defined to me by my professor, my advisor at that time, as prudence and prudential judgment. In other words, within the confine of human affairs, the fuqaha, the jurists, will have to take into account the human conditions on those issues. So, Sharia is always a lively process, responding to the challenges of the time, not the fossilized doctrine that you only refer to and you think you have the answers for everything already in those books of the past. But forever using your own rationality, your own ijtihad, moving forward. And that is the space that is opened up for you and to you. So if you look at the wisdom of Islam as an open space, part of it, not all, for you, it is enough to come up with a body of solutions to the problems that we are facing, rather than closing down everything, rigidize it, is that such a word? Rigid it, being rigid, yeah? Concretize it, and stop thinking. Brother from Turkey this morning told us about the situation around Turkey. I'm sure that was what Rumi also thought about during his time. A lot of turmoil, a lot of problems, a lot of challenges. Well, you see, I don't call what you are seeing in that part of the world as development. I think what we've been seeing is modernity. If you have the money, you can buy anything and everything. State of the art, technology. Because you have the money. Because you have the resources. Because you have from middle. And somehow that sense of having everything in order to acquire anything somehow got confused that we have the answers for everything. Why do you have to think? Why do you have to exert yourself? Why do you have to ask so many questions? The answers are being provided for. That is not the mentality that Muslim Democrats should adopt. Muslim Democrats should adopt the mentality and the mindset that forever there will be questions for human lives into the future, and you have to exert yourself and your faculty in order to answer those questions in the spirit of Islam, rather than adopting the mindset that all the answers have been provided for. Don't ask any more questions. So if you look at Islam that way, to me, there's no problem there's no contradiction between Islam and democracy, or Islamic democracy, or Muslim democracy, or Muslim Democrats. There's enough space for us to be our own mujtahid. And this is what I have been witnessing, Brother Khalid, my fellow panelists. Life in the age of globalization is mobility. And in that mobility, Muslim and Muslimah are required to be a mujtahid, a mujtahidah unto yourself. What do you say about that? Because last Ramadan in London, I had to fast 19 hours. And my son told me, Father, Baba, there are so many interpretations. Some of them fast only 16 hours. Some of them fast 15 hours. Life in mobility requires you to make a judgment, to make a call, and be responsible to him. You can't call my Sheikh al-Islam in Bangkok and say, what time should I break my fast? He doesn't have that experience. I flew from London to Los Angeles, prayer time, afternoon zuhur. I landed in Los Angeles at 1:45 p.m., still zuhur. What happened to my asar? I lost it on the way. What do I do? Now, if you think rigidly about Sharia, well, you have to pray. Or do I have to pray my zuhur twice? This question, this challenge will never happen to people who don't move around. But my life has been mobile. I have to ask those questions. I have to answer those questions myself, unto myself, responsible to him. And I think a lot of questions of modernity, of globalization, we will have to answer ourselves. So, democratic issues, legal issues, personal issues, social issues, medical issues. There's enough room for us to make our own judgments, and we are required to make our own judgment as Muslims. Looking at it that way, Islam and democracy, no contradiction. There's enough space. How can we save ourselves from extremists? Here in this landscape, extremists, I agree, extremism occurs when you close down the system. When the only choices are, you just flow along, or you take up arms against what you don't think is the right way. But if you open up the system, let the contestation take place. Let the people decide. Let the people be the judge. I think we can take care of extremism. I think we can take care of whatever deviation. I think we can take care of those interpretations that do not certainly augur well with life, with others, in this days and age, the age of globalization. I'm sorry about the third question, but do you understand the third question? Yeah? Only two. There was a third question, but I think along the way, all of us up here have already covered. And the summary of this session is, I guess, whether or not there is a space for Muslim small d Democrats in the age of globalization, when pluralism is a fact of life, when isolationism is no longer possible. When no man, no woman can claim him or herself an island entire of himself or itself. I think Brother Anwar would love this poem. No man is an island entire of itself. Any man's death, any man's search, any man's deficiency, any child's hunger, any woman's exploitation or suffering diminishes me as a Muslim, as a human being, because I belong to that long stream of humanity. My humanity, and should I say, my Islamic humanity is also diminished because a child is hungry, because a woman is being exploited, because injustice is being practiced. It is my obligation, my duty, my responsibility also to share and to do whatever I can to make sure that a higher measure of justice, of equality, of freedom, of better quality of life is being enjoyed as much as I can. And I think each of us must commit ourselves to that task of being forever ready to share and to extend hands as Muslim Democrats, Muslimah Democrats, to make a world a better place. And that is truly Rahmatan lil Alamin. Thank you very much.